The Department of Public Health and Human Services is pleased to bring you Aging Horizons. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, fraud, legal issues, veterans benefits, and caregiving. Aging Horizons is a program dedicated to inform and prepare Montanans on these timely issues, making a difference to you and your loved ones. Here now is today's program host.
Hi folks, and welcome to Aging Horizons. On today's show, we'll be talking about Alzheimer's, particularly about the Montana chapter and how it's working to raise awareness of Alzheimer's. It's throughout the state. There are numerous individuals that may have it. We want you to know what it is, what is happening, and how we can bring resources to help you and the loved ones who may possibly have Alzheimer's. So stay tuned.
Flight 109, is that Evel Knievel on the runway?
Whoa, Daredevil! You need a Montana Real ID to fly. Go to mtrealid.gov to make an appointment.
Looks easier than jumping a canyon.
Smile. I see you changed your name from Robert to Evil. Did you bring your name change documentation?
I'm not trying to pull a stunt. Got the paperwork right there.
Go to mtrealid.gov.
Now I can fly. It's that easy.
I have so many questions about power of attorney.
Well, some powers of attorney are for finances and others are for healthcare decisions.
A power of attorney designates an agent who would make decisions on your behalf.
While making a power of attorney, you have the ability to control your agent's power.
You also have the ability to decide when that POA would take effect.
Wait, am I giving away all my rights?
Power of attorney isn't a license to make any decision for you, just those that you've specified.
Your agent should be somebody that's working in your best interest, but it should also be somebody that you would trust.
What if they try to abuse their power?
Protective measures like third-party accounting, secondary signatures, defined spending and gifting limits can help protect against financial exploitation. An agent's powers can always be limited by a customized power of attorney, and they can be revoked by you or the court if the power of attorney is abused.
So carefully drafted estate planning documents can help ensure that your finances are monitored, but not abused.
If you or someone you know is being exploited, please report to Aging Services Bureau at 844-277-9300 or the Legal Service Developer at 1-800-332-2272. This message sponsored by the DPHHS Aging Service Bureau.
Respite care is amazing. If you are capable of doing it, the rewards are beyond measure.
Stephanie Young, respite care provider, on the unexpected benefits of helping people in need.
Being a respite care provider is an amazing experience. It's something that what you give, you get back 100-fold. You receive so much more than you could ever imagine.
To find out how to change lives, including your own, go to respite.mt.gov.
Hi folks, and welcome to Aging Horizons, which is brought to you by the Department of Public Health and Human Services. I'm your host, Brian Lamore, and we're talking about Alzheimer's today, particularly in the month of June. It's a big day for bringing awareness forth about Alzheimer's. So we brought in today an expert, actually the CEO of the Montana chapter of the Alzheimer's Association. We have Lynn Maloney Cabrera. Welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Brian, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Great. Well, let's kind of start at the top. You know, Alzheimer's is a form of dementia. And could you define what dementias are, and then how is Alzheimer's a part of that, and maybe how it is unique?
Great question. A lot to unpack there. There's a lot of misunderstanding maybe about the differences between Alzheimer's and dementia. We hear people say, well, my loved one has Alzheimer's, but they don't have dementia. When in fact, Alzheimer's is a type of dementia, very much like breast cancer is a type of cancer. So it's important to understand that when we talk about dementia, we're actually talking about an umbrella under which there are dozens of different types of dementia. Lewy body dementia, frontotemporal, vascular dementia is one that a lot of people are very familiar with. And then Alzheimer's. And Alzheimer's is the most prevalent type of dementia. I want to be quick to note that nothing under that umbrella, not even Alzheimer's, represent normal aging. Mm-hmm. But in fact, dementia is represented by changes in thinking, behavior, problem solving, memory that impact and impair daily life. Mm-hmm. And it's really important to understand what type of dementia you might be dealing with, because of course it has everything to do with making sure you're introducing effective interventions and appropriate care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. It's so important, because I know I had a relative in the hospital and had a pharmaceutical-induced dementia, which let's straighten out the medications. So we're able to do that. Now, if an individual has dementia, first of all, how can you tell, what are maybe some signs of dementia, so we might be able to notice that amongst our loved ones and start appropriate action?
Absolutely. In fact, one of the classes that we offer, Brian, is called Know the 10 Warning Signs, Why Early Detection Matters. And I know that'll be airing next month on this very channel with Kimmy. But some of the common warning signs are things like difficulty discerning time and dressing appropriately for the weather, forgetting appointments, forgetting names, forgetting recently learned information, having a difficult time with decision making or problem solving, maybe withdrawing from social activities or hobbies that they once enjoyed. And none of those in and of themselves are a direct line to, oh my gosh, this is dementia, this is Alzheimer's. But all of those taken sort of in totality, looking also at what else is going on. Are these new changes to this individual? If I've never been good at keeping track of where my keys are and I lose my keys, that is not unusual for me. Right. But if suddenly I'm putting my keys in places that I can't retrace my steps to find them, like the freezer, or leaving them in my car and my car's on the street where I would never leave it, those would be concerning signs. And those would be times that we would absolutely encourage people to speak to their healthcare provider, share their concerns, be as specific as you can about what you're experiencing, and push until you get to an answer that really addresses your concerns. Because as you pointed out, not all of those changes would equal Alzheimer's. It could be a medication issue. It could be an undiagnosed other type of condition. Certainly individuals that suffer like a brain tumor, they're going to exhibit some of the same symptoms, but that would be a reversible type of condition. But we absolutely maintain that early detection is the key, as with all things.
And you could start addressing those issues. Now, you're with the Alzheimer's Association, the Montana chapter, and a lot of people watching right now might be thinking, I got some questions, and we have both an 800 number and a website that they can go to so they can start getting some answers and defining what the issues are. But I imagine many times broaching this topic with a loved one, a spouse or a parent, is kind of difficult, and I imagine you have resources for that.
You are so right, we do. And one of the things that we recognize is that it is a scary proposition. It is a worrisome proposition for families, and there's a lot of stigma still around it. So we offer tools and resource and actually a guide for how to prepare for that conversation, how to anticipate what your loved one's response might be, how you meet them in that place, and how you gradually over maybe a period of conversations really share information, share concerns, and then work together to find resources and to get the support that's necessary.
And I imagine sometimes it'd be advantageous to actually talk to your loved one's physician. And, because we call it HIPAA, privacy of medical information, is there sometimes some resistance there or some problems?
I'll tell you, really capable providers in this space will want to talk to a family caregiver because the individual living with the disease or experiencing even some of the early changes in the disease is going to be able to share from their perspective, but there might be aspects of their communication, of their behavior that they're not aware of or unable to lend insight to. So a really capable provider will want to have that full conversation.
So it must be tough to see a loved one going through this, and we talk about caregiver burnout. How important of an issue is that?
Oh my gosh, caregiver burnout is really probably one of our most significant concerns at the Alzheimer's Association because the caregivers are at the front line of this process. And we know that this disease will take down everyone in its path if it's allowed to. In fact, over 20% of caregivers predecease the person for whom they're caring because the burden of care is so great. The risk for depression, the risk for early demise are so great. So a priority for the Alzheimer's Association is to really help caregivers be well-resourced, well-supported, and take as good a care of themselves as possible, knowing that the better they're doing, the better the person living with the disease will do.
And we'll get more into that in our next segment, so stay tuned.
Elder abuse is a growing problem, and it's happening right here in our Montana communities. At least 1 in 10 older adults are victims of physical or emotional abuse, financial exploitation, or neglect. To get help or report elder abuse, call your local area agency on aging or Adult Protective Services at 1-844-277-9300.
Every 65 seconds, someone is affected with Alzheimer's or other dementias. Many become isolated at a time when help is most needed. If you or someone you love is affected, help is available, both for people with memory loss and their caregivers. Memory loss can feel frightening, but you are not alone. Call the free 24/7 Alzheimer's Association helpline, 800-272-3900, for guidance and support.
Montana is getting back to life after COVID-19. The COVID vaccine is the best way to keep us on track. The vaccine's been rigorously tested. It's proven to be safe and effective. And Montana doctors and nurses stand behind the vaccine because it works and it will save lives. The COVID-19 vaccine is the best way to protect yourself, your loved ones, and your community. Sign up today to get your free COVID-19 vaccine. Visit covidvaccine.mt.gov.
When I found out it was diabetes, my first thought was, Barb, you need help. You have to take control of this. There is help. My doctor gave me a phone number. I called and signed up with a diabetes educator. There is help. I have to put blinders on when I walk past the bakery counter. I can feel my blood sugar go up. You succeed a little at a time. If you have diabetes, help is available. You do not have to do it alone.
Ask your doctor about diabetes education or visit montana211.org.
Hi folks, welcome back to Aging Horizons. We're continuing our discussion about Alzheimer's. In our last segment, we started to broach the topic of caregivers, individuals who address the needs of their individuals, family members that have Alzheimer's or some types of dementia. And Lynn, Montana Alzheimer's Association, the Montana chapter, is working with our area agencies and our state unit on aging to help address some of these issues. What are some of the actions that you're taking and working with them?
Well, we are so thankful for the opportunity to work closely in partnership with the Office on Aging and the administration of a grant, actually Administration on Community Living grant, that allows us to develop greater dementia capability throughout the state. So of course that has to rest with our area on agency partners who are represented on the ground all throughout the state. And we are so proud to work with them in partnership to both identify individuals in their community that are experiencing Alzheimer's and other types of dementia, and then also to lend that critical support to their family caregivers. And that looks a variety of ways. It certainly has us, the Alzheimer's Association, when people contact us, we put them in contact directly with the area on agency partner because they can really help bring to bear that whole cadre of resources that are available, from Meals on Wheels, maybe a friendly visitor service, and can actually be the hands and feet of delivering resources and materials and ongoing support for people.
Mm-hmm. Now, Lynn, can you tell us what is the possible scale of Alzheimer's in Montana? What is the possibility that individuals have it, just so we can understand how big a problem this can be?
Oh my gosh, it is a big problem, and it's a growing problem. Currently, of all of the top diseases that take people's lives, Alzheimer's and dementias are the only one for which we have no way yet to slow, stop, prevent, or cure. I say yet because during June, which is Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month, we really do want to use this opportunity to elevate people's understanding of the magnitude of this issue. Mm-hmm. There are currently 22,000 people in Montana thought to be living just with Alzheimer's disease. That doesn't include additional types of dementia, as we discussed earlier, vascular dementia, and 90 others. For every individual living with this disease, conservatively, 2 or 3 family or friends are their informal caregivers. So if you were to do all the math on that, and put them all in one community in the state, it would be the second largest community in Montana behind only Billings. So that kind of puts it into perspective for you in terms of the numbers of people we're discussing. And we know those to be conservative numbers. We also know that barring anything that is disease modifying, that is a way to reduce this risk, the disease is only going to continue to increase. We're looking at about 1,000 people a year, again, on average, conservatively, are going to be affected by this disease. Mm-hmm. And we also know that it is difficult to get to a diagnosis. It's difficult. So a number of those individuals, over half, more than half, never have a diagnosis, never have the benefit of care planning or support.
And, I remember in the past that there was limited resources to the medical profession to truly define what kind of dementia an individual might have. Has that improved? I imagine the Alzheimer's Association wants to educate not only caregivers and family members, but the profession itself.
Absolutely correct. Years ago, it was thought that the only way you could definitively diagnose Alzheimer's was on autopsy. And so there was a great deal of, I'm sure, dismay in the medical community and feelings of helplessness. Because when someone sits in front of you with what are clearly challenging behaviors and thoughts and things, you really want to be able to do something for them. And it was once thought that there wasn't anything you could do for them. We know now better, and so now we need to do better. We know that qualified providers can actually make a very responsible diagnosis and need to in order to make sure that families and individuals living with this disease have not only the care that they need, the resources that they need, but increasingly, as we get closer to something that is a disease-modifying treatment, we need people diagnosed early in the disease process so they can take advantage and benefit from having more time with family.
Mm-hmm. A question many people might have, is there something I can do now to prevent this? Are there certain health behaviors that one would change or activities that helps to reduce the incidence of dementia?
Absolutely. We know that over 30% of dementias actually can be avoided. And it makes so much sense, doesn't it? That which is good for your heart is good for your head. That which is good for whole body is going to benefit your brain. And so that looks like things like don't smoke, exercise, eat a heart-healthy diet, keep your blood pressure in check, really well manage other comorbidities. So for instance, an out of control or a poorly managed diabetes is going to make your brain health worse. That's kind of a tough one, because if you've got dementia and you've got diabetes, managing well your diabetes can be a challenge, right?
Yeah.
But you could accidentally, inadvertently escalate the progression of the disease with a poorly managed diabetes. So again, well-managed comorbidities is going to be critical. The more education you can get your hearing checked. If you aren't getting good oxygen-rich sleep, have that evaluated. All of the things that you would do to keep your body healthy are going to be things that help keep your brain healthy.
Well, I know some friends that are also on Medicare. They mentioned when they have their yearly checkup, there's a questionnaire that you go through, and some have complained about it, but I imagine that questionnaire is a great benefit to help starting to find early onset for the individuals that are Medicare eligible.
It's key, and it was such a great gift when Medicare did include it as a required part of that annual wellness exam. I think if we stop and we look back at what was the past on heart disease and cancer, we can see some pretty encouraging analogies. Cancer used to be a death sentence. I know when I was a child, we didn't even say the word out loud. But now, through early detection, through prevention, and then interventions, we know that we can turn the corner on a lot of those other disease conditions that once claimed people's lives. We are in that same space now with Alzheimer's and dementia. Prevention, early detection, and soon, treatments.
Early treatment. And that's our next segment. We'll be talking about research and treatments. Very interesting. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
I think the most pleasant surprise when we turned 65 and signed up for Medicare Part B was finding out about our Welcome to Medicare preventive visit.
It was free, and it gave us the opportunity to visit with our doctors and establish a plan for our health going forward.
They reviewed our medical history, measured our height, weight, blood pressure, and counseled us on other risk factors.
To learn more about Medicare's free or low-cost preventive and wellness benefits, call your local SHIP counselor at 800-551-3191. I mentioned it's free, right?
Twice.
I've been shooting since I was young. It's something I've always enjoyed. I wasn't feeling like myself, and my friend noticed. He asked if he could hold onto my guns temporarily. At first, I was a little shocked, but then I agreed. I think he saved my life that day.
This is Bill. He just received his new Medicare card and is following some simple rules to protect himself from fraud. He knows to never give out his Medicare, Social Security, or bank number over the phone. And this is Nancy. She knows that to detect any problems, she always reads her Medicare summary notice or Medicare Advantage EOB to make sure the billing is correct. Both Bill and Nancy know that anything suspicious can be reported to Montana SMP at 1-800-551-3191.
Here in Montana, we love our outdoor activities. Unfortunately, few of them are risk-free. Indeed, Montana is second in the nation per capita in head injuries that can destroy the lives of people we love. That's why you should insist your family always wear protective helmets. But you can do even more. When you fill out your vehicle registration this year, circle the Y and donate $1 to support traumatic brain injury prevention and education. Now that's using the old noggin.
Hi folks, welcome back to Aging Horizons. I'm your host, Brian Lamore, and we're continuing our discussion about Alzheimer's. Particularly what we'll be discussing in this segment is both treatment and research that is going on. And much of that, almost all of it I imagine, is the Montana Alzheimer's Association chapter and the Alzheimer's Association has a big influence in it through fundraising. So Lynn, can you tell us what's new in research and treatment?
You know, there's never been a more exciting time in the conversation about Alzheimer's and dementia than now. We are really on the cusp of a really encouraging evolution in terms of earlier detection. So that means means of diagnosing this disease that can happen earlier, that can happen less invasively, that can happen more affordably. We're also on the cusp of maybe a disease-modifying treatment that could really help delay onset and lower people's progression in terms of the disease and the changes that the disease takes place. It all relies on early detection, though. You can appreciate that if you only present to a doctor, you're potentially later in the disease process, you potentially are going to be too late to benefit from some of the disease-modifying therapies that we are really on the cusp of. Mm-hmm. You know, and once the conversation was all around cure, and I think we all hold out hope for cure. In fact, our vision is a world without Alzheimer's and all dementia. But we know that it needs to start earlier in the process. We know that it has to rest with awareness and early detection. And we know that unlike the other disease conditions that we discussed, heart disease, cancer, diabetes, all of those early in the disease process, we're also really scrambling to find what can we be doing differently to help families to turn the corner on how these diseases continue to progress. So we're at that place now with Alzheimer's and related dementias. We're at a very exciting point in terms of seeding disease research and speeding disease research.
Mm-hmm. And with the Alzheimer's Association, I know in the fall you have some Alzheimer's walks, but this week is Father's Day, and you're having some activities around that. Tell us more.
On June 20, which this year is summer solstice, we are so excited to share with Montana community members and community members across the nation and throughout the world the longest day. So on the longest day of the year, the day with the most light, we fight the darkness of Alzheimer's. And we do so by inviting people to do something they love for someone they loved. So for instance, if your loved one living with Alzheimer's or dementia loved to bake, maybe it's baking their cookie recipe and selling those at a bake sale, and those revenues that are generated come right back to helping us provide services and supports and research. But as importantly, it helps raise the specter of awareness so people don't have to live with this alone, don't have to worry in isolation and fear, and know that they can turn to the Alzheimer's Association and our area agency on aging partners for help and support.
Mm-hmm. So we have the Alzheimer's Association website up, and people can go to that site. They can get all kinds of information, but we also have a telephone number for you. What kind of calls would you like to receive from our viewers?
There is no wrong kind of call that somebody could place to our 24/7 helpline. It is, just as it implies, available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So maybe on Father's Day, you realize for the first time that Dad's difficulty with the remote control, that his same questions over and over, that some behaviors that once you chalked up as sort of just curious or funny or Dad, now you realize, wow, those are maybe worrisome changes that we should do something about. Maybe you find yourself getting frustrated with the repetitious stories or questions, how do you deal with that in a way that's more meaningful, more kind? You can call our 24/7 helpline. One of our resource specialists right then can give you some really specific, tangible, actionable advice for the moment. But you could also, in the course of that conversation, get a care consultation. Again, there's no cost ever for any of these services that we provide. But that care consultant could talk to you, could talk to your entire family about what you're experiencing, about your worries, your fears, about changes that you anticipate are going to need to be prepared for. Legal and financial planning. How do you keep your home safe? Should dad still be driving? Oh my gosh, the list is endless. But the support that we provide is endless as well. So I encourage you, even if you don't have a formulated question, even if you don't know what to ask or how to ask it, sometimes it's so important just to have somebody on the other end of the phone that isn't going to judge, that isn't going to tell your neighbor, and that is going to give you, again, as I said, just really valuable information.
Mm-hmm. And I know in the past there are support groups for so many different topics, but there's Alzheimer's support groups. And that's so important because the issues that you're facing, maybe someone else has faced them and had a solution. Speak more about the support groups.
Support groups are such an important part of our entire service spectrum. Again, as you said, because people need to know that they're not alone in this. They can learn so much from each other. They can share so much of what they've learned with each other. So in-person support groups are something that we are looking forward to returning to sooner hopefully than later. But we have also really expanded our virtual support groups because of the COVID precautions. So people without ever leaving home can, by phone or by Zoom, also get the benefit of that supportive environment.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like you provide so many resources to individuals if they just know you're there, and that's the importance of the show, and your 800 number and, what we're talking about and the website. We're drawing to a close on the show. What are some of your summary statements you'd like our viewers to remember about Alzheimer's?
Thank you. First of all, Alzheimer's is not normal aging. Alzheimer's is nothing to be condemned. If you're worried about it, contact us. We'll put you in touch. We'll hold on to you for the duration of the disease. We know this. It is hard, but it's harder when you try to do it alone. Because of the Alzheimer's Association and the Area Agency on Aging Partners, you don't have to.
You don't have to. And there's a wealth of resources out there to help address the issues that you're facing as an individual. And a lot of them come from the Montana chapter of the Alzheimer's Association. Thank you for joining us.
Special thanks to the Department of Public Health and Human Services for their continued support. Hosts on Aging Horizons are program specialists at the Montana Office on Aging. Production facilities provided by Video Express Productions. For more information about Aging Horizons, call the Department of Public Health and Human Services toll-free at 800-332-2272.